Perfect. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to bring all of our young ambassadors together. We have some more people just joining us from the waiting room, so I'll let people in as they're slowly trickling in. I am so excited for our presentations today. As I mentioned in one of my original emails, our Young Ambassador Retreat used to be in person at Micro, but this year we're trying something a little bit differently, doing a multi-part virtual retreat to one, get more ambassador participation for those that might not be able to travel to Microbe, and two, just to free up some of our time. Our time at Microbe, the program there is so intense. There's so many different activities happening at the meeting. So I don't want to ever overlap the science because that's truly what want you guys to take a part of. So we're adding this sort of Young Ambassador Retreat pre-microbe to bring this group together on a more regular basis. And this webinar today is actually, I'm not going to speak. I'm going to hand it over to our young ambassadors who I've asked to present. And I want to thank all of our volunteers that offered to present the webinar today. This webinar is specifically about young ambassador activities. And what this is an opportunity to learn from each other. So I haven't been in that role, I'm here in the background helping wherever I can. But really, this is a network of over 100 young ambassadors, and we really want to use this opportunity for you to learn from your peers what's been successful. What are some activity examples? Maybe it's something related to public outreach, something through K through 12 education, partnership with regional or national societies. There's so much different activities that all of our young ambassadors are doing. So I'm handing the floor today over to our young ambassadors so they can present on what they've been doing, hopefully give a little inspiration for some of our newer ambassadors, who are just starting out in this role. I want this really to be an open platform for communication. We're going to allow plenty of time for Q&A as well. Feel free to use the chat bot throughout the presentation, or when we do open the floor to Q&A, you're more than welcome to unmute your microphones at those times to ask your question to some of our speakers today. So truly, I'm going to leave the floor to them and dedicate all the time to these ambassador presentations. The only other sort of housekeeping announcement I want to share is you all should have received an email from our Young Leaders Circle that we have selected our Young Ambassador Excellence Award and Student Chapter Excellence Award for this year. I want to thank everyone for the submissions. Truly, it was super competitive because there's so many great student chapters and young ambassadors doing great work. This year, our Young Leader Circle selected Sarah Abudaba Muhammad from Sudan, wonderful young ambassador, and she actually had a profile on asm.org last year just because of some of the great work that she's been doing. So super excited and congratulations to Sarah for her great work and what she's doing in Sudan. In addition, our Student Chapter Excellence Award winner this year was the University of Santo Thomas Microbiology Society in the Philippines. One of our more long-standing international student chapters who actually presented at our student chapter idea swap that we had back in March. So really, it's a great example of some of the great work that our student chapters are doing in promoting microbiology in their local scientific communities as well. So I just want to take a special shout out to our two excellent award winners, and hopefully, after you guys can read up on some of their activities, might inspire you to submit your own application or nomination for next year. So without that, I am going to turn the floor over to our first speaker, who's going to be Paola from Colombia. If you want to start sharing your screen. You're just muted. That'll help.
Happens. Hello,
Thank you.
everyone. Perfect. Can you see my screen now?
Perfect.
All right. Amazing. Thank you, Kirsten, for the invitation. Hello, everyone, for joining us today. As Kirsten said, I'm Paola Asprilla. I'm the Young Ambassador from Colombia. The overview for today is like what is the work I've been doing as a Young Ambassador, the challenges and the successes. So let's start with the work. I've been doing different activities, but I want to share two main ones. The first one is monitoring water quality. This activity was done in collaboration with Professor Robert Metcalf. He has been instrumental in the development of this PML kids, where the idea is to evaluate the presence of E. coli and different coliforms around. And the Professor McCullough is amazing. He is very engaged with different African communities, and he's very willing to share information with you. So what I did here, I took, based on his material, because he provided the kits and also the material. I translated in Spanish. I made my own version with some pictures in order for people to understand and to be more friendly. So if any a, a Spanish speaker wants to do this activity, please feel free to email me. I'm very happy to share the protocol and all the instructions that I prepare, that we prepared. So what was this in collaboration also with Cascajal Foundation? This is a foundation I've been working very closely as for the past 6 years, and they have a community. They're having different activities in Distrito de Agua Blanca. This is a region in Cali, my city in Colombia. They are where we can find very vulnerable people. And I really wanted to share with them, especially with women and with young girls, the importance of the microorganism, the importance of the water they're drinking. So this activity was perfect because it allowed me the opportunity to just not only talk about talk about science and talk about microorganisms and microbiology, but also the opportunity for them to see to see that and understand the importance of having water with good quality, and to know which kind of water they're drinking and which options they can use to have a better quality, like, for example, like boiling water. So this workshop, we in this community we did three workshops, but this is a picture of the first one we made. And as you can see, where is the pointer? As you can see here, so these are the elements of the kits that the professor Metcalf provide, the bags and all of that. And from this activity, one of the main things I've learned is like how to communicate science with like common people, like how to, even if I have a printed protocol, how can things get wrong with it? Yeah, and how to make it simple for the community. And that was a very nice experience, because usually when you are in the lab, it's easier just to follow the protocol, read it, and everyone will understand. Well, these kind of things, they don't happen with the community. You have to give clear instructions. You can communicate clearly what are you expecting and what is the step by step that you want them to follow. Um, yeah, so let's transition to my next activity. That was Meet the Microbiologist as well. This was made in collaboration with Cascajal Foundation. We created these protocols. I don't know, maybe because I'm all the time creating protocols. I like to make instructions clearly, also just not only for them to understand, but also for myself to organize and have my head around. So we provide the idea of this activity of the Meet the Microbiologist. It was not just only to go to different colleges and meet a microbiologist, like actually doing microbiology. So what we did, we organized a mini introduction to microbiology. And the microbiologist that I invited that day was Mayre Eraso, which is my best friend, but also an amazing microbiologist who now is working and transitioning in analysis, data analysis, and is from the University of Valle, and also is member of Cascajal Foundation. Of course, I was part of Meet the Biologist. These two slides were the ones that we presented to the students in the activity, with some other details about key concepts about microbiology. And here is like a few pictures, like just two pictures of these amazing girls, like having fun about microbiology. In the picture right here, so we took a different fungus, and we made it in different plates, so they were able to to observe the structure, the like getting to know the different type of fungus and the structures that are associated in the weight. So something that was very useful to me and the activity is like bringing these cute elements or small gifts that will keep everyone engaged. For example, like I was able to 3D print this bacteriophage is like a planter bacteriophage. So once they to keep the students engaged, every time one of them like said something or contribute something very smart, so I will just give it to one of them, and it kept the conversation going, and they I don't know if it's not right, but they were really interested and really at least very engaged. And so this is one of the buttons that I got in the last year in the micro in Atlanta. This so we have also some agar plates where they were able to understand the ubiquity of the microorganisms. They was and understand the importance of washing their hands. So one of the groups like wash their hands and then touch the different petri dishes with agar, and for further to understand where the microorganisms are, where they grow, and what are the microorganisms on their phone, and all of that. So these are some of the results. As you can see, there are plenty of colonies, even in the ones that clean their hands. This is manos limpias, so they wash their hands, but still growing some microorganisms. And the idea was to explain to them that, okay, yeah, the importance of washing the hands, but also the importance of the microorganisms that we associate, we live all the time. Challenges from all these activities. So in this session, I have just three main points that have been instrumental in my process. One of them is the time management. In terms like some of the activities, I was able to do it to be there to do it, because currently I've been studying. I'm starting my PhD, so then I was not able to be fully in Colombia. So trying to manage two different time zones and manage work and do it, that was one of my main challenges. The spaces available to carry out these activities, definitely I was able to overcome it, basically creating collaborations and connecting with the locals. And this third point is like Colombia does not have a very active microbiology community, and that's what I've been working for the past year, is like to try to revitalize the microbiology society, that the Colombian Microbiology Society. The two examples that I presented to you today are more focused on public outreach, and also working with Black communities and Afro-Colombian communities, because I can relate to them, and also I understand the struggles in the understanding of microbiology and science in general. So that's been my main target. But aside, I'm also working on the microbiology from the institutional level as well. What have been the successes? Amazing collaborations, not just only with Cascajal Foundation, but also with the University of Valle. A strong team like Cascajala have been very instrumental in this process, and the people in the different schools, the high schools, engaging with the community, inspiring the next generation of microbiologists, the next generation of women in STEM has been one of my great successes and what makes me very happy. So what's next? And this is what I've been working on, is for the in September we are planning to have our first symposium de microbiología after pandemia, after COVID-19 in Colombia. And I have the collaboration, the University of Valle, Autónoma, ICESI. There are big universities in Colombia. And one slide is missing. Okay, it jumped. And then monitoring water in Buenaventura and creating an Instagram page. And that's it. That's me. If you have any question, please drop it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. You covered a lot of what's going on. So, and Paula's one of our more senior young ambassadors. So I think it's important to note, that all of these activities have grown over the last couple of years of collaboration too, just for any of our newer folks on the call today. And I love that you mentioned the water quality workshop with Dr. Metcalf. For any of our new ambassadors that haven't had a chance, he's a longtime ASN member and volunteer who's very passionate about clean water and sort of this basic introductory water quality testing workshop. And he's actually offered to do a webinar with our young ambassadors. If anyone else is interested, I'm happy to connect you. Um, he's a great resource and is really interested in sort of training others to go into their communities and use, a basic, he calls it a portable microbiology laboratory to check for water testing. And it's great to see that you were able to do that with the students as well. It doesn't need to be done, at a high level. I think it can be done for that middle and high school level as well. If there's if there's any questions or if anyone wants to connect with Paula, please feel free to add your message to the chat or unmute your microphone. I'm more than happy to take questions. But thank you so much. I wanted to ask Fatima from India, are you do you have a presentation today?
I do have a presentation. Good
Yeah.
evening. Good morning to you. Good morning. Shall I share my presentation?
Yes, go right ahead. You can be our next speaker. Thank you. Oh, so do you see the screen sharing? There we go. Perfect.
Is screen available?
Perfect. You're all set.
So a very good morning to all of you. And thank you, Kristen, for giving me the opportunity to present what I have done through this past year. And it has been a very exciting journey for me to be a part of the American Society for Microbiology and to represent my country to this forum. And as a young ambassador to India, my commitment was to advance microbiology education, research, and collaboration. And as soon as we joined the American Society for Microbiology as young ambassadors, there was all the ambassador must have received like the research project, research funding workshops, and that is one of the exciting things that happened to us because we have to submit various ideas for a workshop. And the best thing is the ASM, they are so open to so many ideas, and I got around three workshops funded by ASM, and one workshop was I did in a collaboration with one of the institutes and distant part of my country. So the beauty of these workshops is they help us in building the collaborations. We invite distant speakers. We go to different places for conducting these workshops, and they help us in building up science. And one of the best things that happened to me as a part of these workshops when I submitted and I got these workshops done was the building up of collaboration. Like when we were doing the research methodology workshop, then one of the speakers, he proposed a government-funded research project for an institute, and we are now running that project. Although it is not about microbiology, but it is about cardiac myopathies, and our project got a collaboration through one of these workshops because of one of the speakers. So I suggest all the ambassadors who are new to this ASM that please submit your proposals for whenever you receive a mail from Kristen to submit a workshop proposal, because they will help your network and build your community of ASM. So these are some of the clips of the workshops we organized. One was on neglected tropical diseases. The other was, they were on diverse topics. The other one was on advancing research methodologies. And there is an upcoming workshop which we'll be conducting in coming week, that is on mentorship. The other thing that I did as an ASM ambassador was founded the student chapter for my institute. And one of the advantages of starting this student chapter is you get the manpower to work with you. These students, they are so brilliant, they have so innovative ideas, and they come up with so many ideas. They help you organize and do things along with the ASM. So they come up with so many ideas, and then with this team of my students, I'm able to organize so many workshops and other activities with under the ages of ASM. For example, we organized an inter-school quiz competition, and I was so happy to see the faces of these students, because when we organized this quiz, it was on an app that is Kahoot. So many students came to me after that we want microbiology as one of our future subjects. So that was one of the a very motivating factor for me, and they requested that more of such quizzes should be organized, because from all over the region, different schools, different teams from different schools, they participated, and there was a tough competition, and they all enjoyed throughout the quiz. And this is all because of the student chapter that we developed. And these members of the student chapter, they actively helped me out in organizing these activities. We also organized a poster competition on a very unique topic, that is imagining a world without microbes. We always complain that we are having so many illnesses and diseases and pathogens, microbial pathogens. But we thought, why not these microbes? We know they are so have been our ancestors. So why not to think about what benefits we have? So we organized this poster competition. Then each year we organize a global hand washing day. Again, you can see the students, they are performing a skit and all. And it was again an innovative method. The participants, they took pledge that they will be performing hand hygiene, and complete week of World Antimicrobial Awareness Week, where we organize a number of activities, including all the faculty members and the students and faculty of different. We have a central government university which have many different departments, like the arts departments and a number of other departments, Unani medicine, and a number of more than 30 faculties. So we involved almost all of them as a part of this World Antimicrobial Awareness Week. These are the clips of the World Antimicrobial Awareness Week that we organized. So we keep on organizing these activities, but one of the most important thing is the outreach activities. And during one of the outreach activities, I happened to meet in a population of a number of, when we were talking about the human papilloma virus, I found only a single girl who was vaccinated against human papilloma virus, despite a number of target audience who should be vaccinated. You can see the photograph of a single girl. So we facilitated her and we made her our ambassador for HPV, so that she can now promote. When you organize such activities, you found some ambassadors also who can be your future champions, and we label them as champions or ambassadors, so that they promote the science further. As a young ambassador, another task was to represent as ASM ambassador, and for that I went to different places. And these, when I go to different places, obviously it helps in developing, building collaborations. So these workshops, ASM funded workshops, and ASM when we go for collaborations to different places, then also it helps in collaboration. So we have a collaboration now with the IFRA Institute, and we'll be co-mentoring the students for a PhD program. So this ASM has helped me a lot in developing collaborations. Then I also urge all the young ambassadors that whenever there is a message from Christian about any new volunteering opportunity or anything like this, please go for it and submit your what you think about it, because it helps you in one way or the other. Like there was mail about the mentorship program. So when I submitted, I was approved as a fellowship mentor for a fellowship program. And again, when there was a meeting, you get to meet so many new people, you get to learn from so many new people. So this is what I have been doing through 1.5 year for now. But the challenges, as mentioned by the earlier speaker, they have been like time management. When I joined as a ASM Young Ambassador, uh, soon there was a proposal for the workshop, and after that summer vacations started, so we were like stuck for 2 to 3 months, because we have 2 months summer vacations, and soon after the summer vacations we have examinations of the students, and they are a target audience most of the times because the faculty is busy. So time management is one of the challenges. So that is all. I thank the largest network of microbiologists for providing us the platform to explore the maximum potential for research and collaborations. And it has been a wonderful journey. And it helps me learn a lot, because whenever we meet new people, we get to learn from them. And that is the beauty of ASM. It helps us building so many new networks and collaborations, and the opportunity to learn from so many new people. That is all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Truly, I think you touched on a lot of great points. I open the floor to anyone else to jump in with questions as well. I think you made a couple great points. One, I always encourage Young Ambassador Project funding. Like you said, you sort of have to shoot your shot. You have to submit your proposal, see what the review committee's feedback is, but it can be extremely positive. I mean, even partial funding, I think, is very supportive, hopefully, to, there are the resources to support you. So thank you for talking about that, as well as the student chapters. I was wondering if you had any advice, since you've been working to expand both your personal and professional network during your time as Young Ambassador, of sort of the best way to make those introductions, if it's, through colleagues, or sort of like sending someone an email to say, I have this idea. Is there any advice you would give someone who, might be a little shy to start expanding their network like that?
The first thing is that I never say no to anyone. Whenever anyone, they get to know that yes, I am a young ambassador to ASM for India. So people approach that we want to collaborate with you, we want to do a workshop. And when I submit a proposal, you must have seen I always put names for some collaborators, because they are the people approaching. So always I am always open to them that yes, please come, we will do in collaboration. And when we do in collaboration, we build a relationship that helps in further future. Not that collaboration is not limited to that particular workshop. It develops for future work also. Like I recently went for a workshop to the south of India, and from there we started the PhD mentorship program between our institute and their institute. So talking to people always helps. We get to learn so many things from them, and they learn from us. There's always something to learn from the other person.
No, that's really good. I think, like you said, it's fostering those relationships. It's, you make that introduction, you start something, but it's really fostering it over time. So that's great advice. Thank you so much for your presentation today. Again, anyone's more than welcome to jump on or add questions to our chat for any of our speakers at any time. And in the interest of time, I am going to move on to our next speaker. Damilare, can you unmute and share your slides?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Good day, everyone, whether it's morning or afternoon or evening at your end. Thank you, Kristen, and thanks to ASM for the opportunity to get to talk about some of my work and give insight to other ambassadors. My name is Damilare Ajagbe, and I recently gained my PhD in microbiology and molecular genetics at Oklahoma State University just last Friday. So it's still excitement month for me here. And so, yeah. And I'm the young ambassador to Oklahoma, and I've been the young ambassador since 2023. So for me, this presentation, my goal is to give insights to some of the things I've done while using my involvement and activities as reference. So it's just basically trying to give our ideas of what every other people go explore, in addition to what some of the previous speakers have talked about, Yeah. So to start, I believe first thing is there's a need to understand your local context. As ambassadors, you need to first identify what's the current state of things where you are in your region. Are you a new ambassador? Are you starting from the scratch, or are you building on the work of another person, like coming in and taking over, from a previous ambassador? So because the understanding of the local context and the state of things is going to guide, the way you approach things and your activities. So in my case, I was the first young ambassador to Oklahoma. So there was a very little ASM presence or engagement within the state, despite the fact that we had so many microbiology departments. So my first goal was, mapping my region, identifying universities, institutions with a microbiology department, and that's how I came to know many of those institutions. This is a map of institutions in Oklahoma, and then I started, reaching out to them to establish my presence, to make my presence known and get them to know about ASM as an organization, right? And so that was a lot of about emails. That was like the general approach to these things, sending out emails to many of those institutions, or looking out for like maybe the head of department in those institutions to reach out to them. So many times, like many people experience here, you sometimes, get feedback. Sometimes you do require sending several emails for you to get feedback, or sometimes you don't even get feedback at all. And I believe that's where your network comes into play. For me, it was leveraging on the network of professors I know in my institution. I just simply had to reach out to many of the professors here and tell them, oh, do you know any professor in this institution right here in Oklahoma? And then they were able to refer me to, different people, which makes the connection which more easier. And one thing I did also was not just reaching out to these institutions alone. I tried to establish a contact person, because I tried to send emails to these people, like every 2 months or every 3 months, telling them about ASM activities, the programs ASM do, opportunities that are available in ASM or conferences. So, by having a contact person in this institution, I could easily send my emails to the contact person, and the contact person can directly forward my emails to students and faculties in the institution. And the good thing is that this has helped me to establish connection currently with 6 universities in Oklahoma and 4 high schools, which has been very great, promoting or encouraging involvement in ASM activities in the state. But for me, the mindset was not just to connect to universities or high schools, not to people who have an understanding of microbiology already. The plan for me was to also reach out to younger populations, people who have very little knowledge of what microbiology entails. And this is because I believe microbiology oftentimes is not a mainstream course for people coming into universities. If I use Nigeria as an example, because I had my undergrad degree in Nigeria, microbiology was not conventional to put into for most people. Like more than 70% of students you would find in the department are people who couldn't get into their preferred programs, like maybe medicine or pharmacy. And so there was the need for us to, foster the younger generations of microbiologists. There's a need to catch them young, engage their minds early, and this is why I started this outreach called a virtual outreach called Zoom a Microbiologist. And the whole idea about this was to model after Skype a Scientist. I don't know how many of us know what Skype a Scientist is. It's a program that simply connects people, scientists to classrooms. So you as a scientist could register on the program, and then you have teachers and classrooms who register in the program. And based on your availability, Skype scientists just connect you to the schools, and then you get to talk about your research. It's always very fun. And that's what I mirror this virtual initiative about. So if you don't have this network with like high schools or middle schools yet, you could, start the program by, joining the Skype scientist platform, which is already, in progress. And so far, have been able to, have like 2 interactive Zoom sessions with middle schools here in Oklahoma, trying to introduce the kids to, what microbes are, what's fun about microbiology, and it's been a very rewarding session for me. And so, but more than just that, I believe there's the need to build student network is something we cannot overemphasize, and this is something ASM has been working very hard towards, particularly with, platforms like ASM Connect to bring people together, to create a platform for people to meet each other regardless of background or degrees and stuff like that, But for me, I wanted something more, more local, something more, more niche, within Oklahoma. a platform that can bring students together, within Oklahoma. So I created a group me channel, which I tagged the ASM Oklahoma group me channel. And then on this platform, I get to share, scholarship opportunities for ASM conferences and every mentoring opportunities I know that go live on ASM or that Christian shares. So it's been a very easy platform to meet people, for people to interact with each other. And I don't know if it's the case, people interact differently when the limited number of people or the category of people are just peers. The way students interact when you have professors on the group is very different from the way students interact when everybody on the group is a student. It's more free, there's more freedom in those interactions. And so yeah, like I mentioned, we have the ASM Oklahoma Group Me channel since 2023, and we still keep it running, in the last 2 years. So we've kept it running. But more than just this, also I believe as ambassadors, we have the opportunity to contribute to the regional event. If you're a young ambassador in the US, you probably belong to an ASM branch. So the first thing I believe is you could do is, identify and connect to the leadership of your regional branch. By connecting to that, they are always willing to have you on the platform, have you contribute to many of those things. And also you could get to attend your branch annual meetings. Most branch have annual meetings regularly. For me, I belong to the Missouri Valley branch, which connects Oklahoma or Nebraska and Kansas. So we have these conferences, every year, and they move it across different states. So, and most of the executives on the leadership of this branch, they are all volunteers also, and so they are always willing to have more people who can contribute, to the execution and the planning of this meeting. So, and this is something I've gotten to do since I joined, and like I mentioned, I've attended the Missouri Valley branch meeting since 2022. And so this year's Missouri Valley branch meeting was held in Oklahoma, right in my school year. So I had more major roles to play, because I was here, and I was responsible for coordinating many of the on-site logistics for the 2-day conference. From designing the promotional flyer you can see on the screen, to printing out the name tag, setting up the venue, the posters, picking up the presenters, the speakers, everything, making everything was right in plan. It was my own activities, all of those through. And it was a good turnout. We had like more than 150 attendees, and we had like up to 5 participants from up to 5 universities in Oklahoma. So I believe this is one of the ways we can establish our impact, as young ambassadors. But in addition to that, I believe as ambassadors, we could also go more local, when it comes to conferences, which is something many of the people who spoke before me already mentioned about. You could host or co-host research meetings in different universities within your region. Like for example, like I said, in my case, I hosted or co-hosted the Microbiology and Molecular Genetics Symposium in OSU right here in my university. And so it was very easy because I'm right here. So it was easy for me to, reach out to all of the departments and institutions. And this program was also co-sponsored through the Young Ambassador Project Fund, like, Christian already mentioned, and like the previous speaker also, Fatima already mentioned also. And also this was also a good opportunity for me to, present about ASM, right? I gave a presentation on ASM, the membership benefit, to get more people involved. And we had a good turnout. We had over 80 attendees. We had over 50 presentations, both oral and postal. And also, one thing I tried to do was to invite industry professionals, to these meetings, because it's an academic space. Most time, all we have is professors in different fields, but many people want to, engage with industry professionals. They want to know what it is like in the industry, how to apply to jobs in the industry. So we have industry people came in to talk about their field, the different, how to apply for jobs and all of those things. And also I reached out to, other sponsors and exhibitors to make the program more robust, So I reached out to Thermo Fisher Scientific, and they were part of our co-sponsors. They also sent their representative for our conference. So they had exhibitions, they had people there to show the professors and students many of their new products. And they also had different, free gifts to give to people also. And one other way we also try to encourage, participation was to include membership prices. Like the first place in each category had got a membership prize, whether a student member for their category. And we also handed out ASM certificates to encourage people. So. And one thing is that this conference, the one I talked about just now, this conference at OSU has been a good driver for the establishment of the student chapter at the university right now. It's something that, result is something that drives people. So when people say that something is done, they are more willing to, take part in every other activities. And now we have, the ASM branch chapter being planned already, and with the hope of submitting it before the next ASM conference in June. Talking more about student chapter, I believe also we could leverage on conferences and organized events to reach out to people or different institutions when it comes to establishing of student chapter, and this is one thing I try to make use of. Every time I go to an ASM regional conference, I get to use the opportunity to talk to people from different universities, introduce myself as the young ambassador to Oklahoma and tell them, do you know about, you could have a student chapter in your universities, the benefit of having, this student chapter. And more recently at the regional conference in the university, I set up a booth, an information booth to talk to people about, establishing a student chapter. I had printed materials to, provide guide to them. And all this was done, by working with the leadership of the ASM branch, and that's one thing I already reiterated about. It's a collaboration, it's a joint effort. Your goals as an ambassador is also similar to the goals of the executive of the leadership branch. So there's so much we could do together, by working with them. And last thing I probably want to reiterate is that even though we all as ambassadors are maybe confined in some sense to our region, the overall goal as ambassadors is literally the same. So, right, there's a need for us to think global, and so that could involve, connecting to, student groups outside the region. You could partner with other ambassadors for activities. I know we've seen some of that already, and also, so we could do more of that. And also we could involve hosting virtual, information sessions on membership and opportunities. For me, I've had to partner with, microbiology associations in Nigeria because, I'm a Nigerian. I had my undergrad in Nigeria, so it's more easier for me to reach out to these organizations. And we've had 2 webinars, on different things relating to microbiology, where I've been able to infuse discussions about ASM and get people to know about, ASM membership and how they could go about registering and becoming an ASM member. And so with that, I'll share some of the lessons I've learned so far. It's very important, you start small, but the goal is to be consistent, and being consistent, is better than, one-time event. And the third thing is, there's a need for us to focus on people. Everything is about relationship. Relationships are currencies. They drive everything, whether relationship within your university, outside your university. There's so much we could achieve if we simply just leverage on relationship. And so the fourth point I had here was we're leveraging on the platform. And what I mean by that is that, as ambassadors, we have a platform, which is a very great platform. I believe strongly that leadership doesn't require positions. Many of us could do what we currently do without being an ambassador. But what ambassadorship gives us is a platform. People are more willing to listen to you. People are more willing to give you the benefit of a doubt when you're talking not just from your own standpoint. They know you're talking based on or being a representative of a prestigious organization. And so we could do more when it comes to, relating with people from that aspect, introducing ourselves to people, building connections with people. And so that's one thing I want us to, we could explore. And there's a need for us to use simple tools or platforms. That's one thing I've come to find out, whether it's emails, whether it's Google Form, whether it's GroupMe, where possible. When I first came into the program, my idea was to use create a group on Microsoft Teams or Slack channel. But I realized that when people don't use this platform naturally, it's difficult to integrate them in this platform. So many people I know don't use Slack normally. So if the only reason why they would have to download Slack or use Microsoft Teams is because of the microbiology group, most of them are not going to be very active. But when you use platform, they are very much involved already. It's easy to integrate anything you're trying to do to that. And the final point I would say is document everything, like everything. This is something I was a corporate about. For the first 1.5 years of my program, all I did was I just wanted to get things done. I wasn't into much of documenting or taking pictures or anything like that. But I've come to realize that, for you as an ambassador and for the organization as a whole, documenting things, goes a long way, promoting what you do, making the organization also promote what you do and get recognized for it. So I hope people could take you from that and learn from my own standpoint. So with that, I'll be happy to connect with everyone. My name is Damilare. You could connect with me via email or LinkedIn, and I'm happy to collaborate or answer your questions here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of comments coming in. Everyone's saying it's a lot of work and a lot of well done work. So thank you so much for sharing. And yes, I'm all of our Young Ambassador contact information is on the Ambassador website on asm.org, and it's sorted by group and then region. So feel free, definitely connect with your fellow Young Ambassadors. This is why we're on the call today. And I think you've touched on a lot of great points, and I think it's all about collaboration and, leveraging the existing local meetings, partnerships with your branch. Even existing student groups is something I always like to point out for young ambassadors. There might already be some type of club or journal club or group or lab group, something like that on campus that might, naturally form into a student chapter. So I think that's really great. So thank you so much for sharing. There's a lot of great comments coming into the chat, but if there's any questions as well, anyone's more than welcome to add this question as well to the chat. I'm going to invite, oh, did we lose her? Marystella? Oh, I think I lost the connection of our next speaker. So we'll go a little bit out of order here, and I'll invite Elaine to jump on from Louisiana, share your slides. And hopefully we get Marystella, our Young Ambassador to Kenya, to jump on after. Elaine, are you on? There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Oh, perfect.
I'm here. I went to grab some water,
No,
but I'm
you're
here.
good. You're good.
Okay, let me try to present. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
We got you. Good to go.
Okay, great. Okay, let me take this out. Okay. Good morning, everybody from Louisiana. My name is Elaine Nkwocha, and I'm currently studying for a PhD in biological sciences at Louisiana State University, and I am an ASM Young Ambassador to Louisiana. This is my first year, and so I'm super excited to be part of this group and part of ASM. And so for my talk today, I'm just going to be talking about the first activity that I had in April. And so again, thanks to every other person who has spoken already. I've been taking notes from you all. So thanks for sharing everything that you're doing. And I'm just learning from all you're all doing. Okay, so I'll be sharing some details from the first activity that I've had for this year, and I termed it the ASM Young Micro Explorers. So it was actually a microbial discovery escapade with some elementary school students. So like I said, it took place on the 1st of April. And we had in attendance 114 people, including up to 98 students in the school, and the location was at LaSalle Elementary School. Our target audience for this event was actually the third, fourth, and fifth grades in that school. However, for this event, we could only work with the fourth and the fifth grades. The third grade students were actually taking a state's test and so couldn't come out to participate, but we intended to include them at the beginning. So the purpose of this event really was to have some hands-on activities that the students could engage in or engage with, and do that with some of the volunteer microbiologists that I came with from LSU, and I'm so thankful to them for being part of this. So you'll see their pictures at the end. But the purpose of this event, as I said, was for the students to engage in hands-on activities with these, volunteers, and interact with them and explore the microbial world. So they did a lot of learning about microbes, where we can find them, what do they do, how do they interact with humans, and what public health issues could arise from such interactions, and then how can we prevent them. So that was really the purpose of the event. So to start, we started in a large group. So the grades came out in their grades with their teacher. So we started with the fourth grade, and then they came out And we assembled in a large group, and we did some welcome introductions, talked about ASM, all about ASM, what we're doing to promote the microbial sciences, whether it was in Louisiana, in America, but also around the world. And started off with some, discussions about microbes, what they are, where we can find them, and what they do as well, how we can see them since they're really microbial and very small. And so it was so great to just hear them interact, and they were just so excited about what we came that day to do, and they were answering questions, and we had those discussions as a large group. Now, once we finished in the large group, they moved into smaller groups. So like I said before, I had some volunteers from LSU who came along with me, and so we split our large groups into small groups. And so they started in-depth, discussions with our facilitators in their small groups. And again, went over all the microbial discovery discussions, what they are, where we can find them. But if you look behind each, facilitator, there's actually like a large sticky notes on the wall. So the idea to have that was to divide that into three sections. The first one will be what they know, what the students knew about microbes. Another section would be what questions they have. And then at the end of the day, we also had another section where we looked at what they learned from all the activities of the day. So again, they engaged with our volunteers on just learning and just having fun, learning about the microbes, where we can find them and all of this, but also learning about what the volunteers do with their research. So they got an opportunity to look at what careers they can have, in microbial, sciences. And at the end of our activity that day, some of them were really excited about, oh, I want to be a microbiologist and things like that. So they did all of these things in their small groups. So for the fourth grade, one activity that they did after their small group, discussions, was to go into doing a microbial scavenger hunt. And I have the source of the activity sheets that we use, the American Museum of Natural History. So what they did with this was that, so if you can look at the students, they had like a separate sheets where they had mystery microbes, and then another sheets where we had microbes that were like, classified into different groups. So bacteria, viruses, protists are the ones that we looked at. And so they now broke into subgroups again in their smaller groups and began their hunt. So the idea was that they would look into the batch that had like different ones with different shapes and all, and then they would identify which one should be in either of the groups. They would color them and then place them in those boxes. So it was a fun activity to move away from learning about them, generally, but now to beginning to identify them in their different categories, but also with their shapes and what they do and all. So they had fun doing all of these things. And the next thing they then moved into was then to do a demonstration of how you can have the spread of microbes. And after that activity, they went ahead to design a health poster. Now, to demonstrate the spread of microbes, they are facilitators worked with them with different resources. One of them would be to use like a medicated, powder where the facilitator would just have that in their arms and kind of blow that into the air. Now, again, a caution here will be that you wouldn't blow that towards the direction where you have the students. You would do it in the opposite direction, just in case anybody would have any form of allergies or reactions to it. And then once they do that, we had a discussion about, okay, so just looking at that, the powder in the air, how long would it stay before it settles on the surfaces and things like that, and just looking at transmission and spread as well. Now, another activity that they did to look at the spread of microbes was also to just add water to a spray bottle and then spray that. So all the students kind of raise their hands up in the air, and the facilitators would just spray that into the air, and then they would also monitor to see how long it stays in the air, and then how long it stays before it would rest on on their hands. So that led into a discussion about, hey, if somebody was infected, and then you could have spread of microbes from maybe sneezing, coughing, all of those things. Now, the next thing that they moved into to also demonstrate the spread of microbes was to kind of model what could happen in a classroom if one of them, was infected. So they applied petroleum jelly to their palms, and then the facilitators actually spread glitters on their palms as well. And for that, you can use nutmeg instead of glitters. But again, please watch out for like allergies and things like that. So they did that and then rubbed the glitters all over their palms and then started working on their health poster. Before they started working on their health poster, they needed to, decide as individual students or in the small groups, what environments. Is it like in the hospital? Is it like in the home? Is it in the school? What like areas would you find microbes and how would they spread? But also how would we prevent them from spreading? So they drew the maybe area environment on their poster, but also made some notes on the side of how you could prevent the spread of microbes. And so they did that in their small groups and then shared amongst themselves. So again, becoming a voice amongst their peers. And the idea was that after the activity, they would take their health posters to their classrooms, but also take them home and continue the conversation with their families. So this was something they did, just looking at the spread of microbes. So for each group, so like I said at the beginning, we had the fourth grade and the fifth grade. So at the end of each activity for each grade, they would exit the hall with their teachers, but they'll also receive souvenirs. So they received some stickers, microbial stickers with like shapes of different organisms, names of different organisms, also like careers in microbiology and all those things that they could go with. And then after that, we had the fifth grade come in, and we also started again in a large group. So again, in a large group, having welcomes, introductions, all about ASM, but also diving into what microbes are, where we can find them, and all of this. So again, from the large groups, they moved to their small groups. So for the fifth grade, they moved into their small groups and still did the microbial hunt as the fourth grade, but this time they now went on to design like a health campaign. So for the fourth grade, it was a health poster. For them, it was almost like a health poster, but they now made it into a campaign. So what are we going to do? What's our message to the world or to our peers or to our friends or to our parents or to members of the community about microbes, what we've learned about microbes, and then how can we prevent the spread. So this was for fifth grade. Additionally, for the fifth grade, they now went on to use the scientific method in a process to now begin to investigate yeast fermentation. So with this and with doing other hands-on activities, something that I found was for us to use like local resources, right? Even though you may want to investigate like a long list of food sources for fermentation, for this activity we just used to. So we used like a sweetener, but we also used raw sugar. So the facilitators had a time to have a discussion with them about what fermentation was, and also just flipping that chart to say, yes, even though we can have harmful microbes, we can also have useful, microbes. So we went into that conversation about, where can we use them, in a good way. And, some of them raised, conversations about using yeast to bake home, having all those conversations, but also leading into how do we use them in industries and all of that. So they had a demonstration to walk through yeast fermentation. And for here, it wasn't just experiment, but it was also modeling what it would look like to use that reflexive scientific, method. You're making an observation, you're asking a question, but you're also making like a hypothesis. So they had to choose between the two sources that we had, which of them would you have more gas being produced because you have that yeast utilizing the sugar there, right? So they would do that. So they made their hypothesis, then they did their experiments, recorded all their results, and then at the end of the day had a conversation of what that meant too. And started thinking about, okay, so with our results, how do we present it? So I know some of the groups started using like graphs to present it. So if you had like a bubble or no bubble, it would be like a zero. And then as you went down the line, it would be zero, one, two, three, all the way. And so some of them use like tables to also represent their data as well, and then share that in their small groups. So some highlights from this was that students now increased and reinforced their knowledge and awareness of the microbial world. They also did not just learn about how harmful they could be, all the public health issues that we could have, but they also started looking at how they are useful as well. They started building some of their science literacy skills, learning to, communicate with one another, collaborate with one another, thinking critically as they looked through the experiments, analyzing whatever results that they got, but also moving on to make a presentation to other people. And we can see that they not only gained knowledge or learned, they also are now learning to become a voice. So whether it's in the community, in their school, making a connection between microbes, public health issues, how we can prevent them, and all of those. And some of them also started talking about like careers. So like I said earlier, they had an opportunity to speak with the volunteers about all that they were doing in their own research and careers that they can have in microbial in the microbial sciences. So some of them are like, oh, I want to be a microbiologist. So we can see a heightened interest in careers in the microbial sciences, but also this was an opportunity to increase ASMs in a connection with the community. Um, so some thoughts and things from this activity would be to ensure some clear communication with partners, with schools, with collaborators. So as soon as I had the APF activity funded, or even before, I was already in touch with the school to know when we could come. And like other speakers had pointed out, time management is also something. So I tried to make the activity fall during when we had our spring break, so that we could have some volunteers who could come alongside to go to that school. And so we made all these plans ahead of time, which would include like time for the event, the venue to use, and the school was gracious enough to give us a space in their gym, and so it was a huge space that we could use to have this. Depending on what kind of experiments or activities you may want to do, you may have several items to order. So you want to order them ahead of time so that they can come in before the event. And if there are items that you can source locally, that would be great to also, get them locally. But if you really need to order things out or to get them in, then it would be good to do that ahead of time. Something I have here again is to arrive at the venue on time to set up. So if you work with like elementary schools, you know that everything is like time bound and time limited. You don't want to cut out of their class time or meal times and things like that. So we had planned to come to the venue 30 minutes before we started, and we found out that it wasn't quite enough to get everybody situated, and so it may be good to have like some more time before. Something that helped was that we aligned our learning activities or other activities we had with their learning standards. So again, this was eating into school time, so it would be good that they are seeing some value out of the time. So aligning whatever we're doing with something that they could be learning in the semester or in session was good, and the teachers were there as well to help organize them and all. And they were super excited about what we're doing. So the next thing I have here is to include other ASM members or early career microbiologists. So of course I couldn't have done this alone. And so I reached out to other members in my department saying, hey, this is an activity that we want to do. Are you interested to join and things like that? And they were really willing to come over to come help with this activity. So like I said, engage with the students and teachers. It's usually easy to get into these schools when you're actually collaborating not just with the like admin staff and all, but with the science teachers themselves too. Working in small groups would help with hands-on experiments. It works good in the large group to have like discussions about microbes and all, but then when it got to really doing the hands-on experiments, the smaller groups worked even better. So something here to look out for if you're going to be working with them and using, different things is to look out for allergies. I remember a student was allergic to glitters, and so didn't have to do that other activities. The other activity where they had to use petroleum jelly on their palms and then use glitter. So please ask about allergies just in case, and then include souvenirs as much as possible if possible. So like I said before, we had some stickers, microbial stickers that had like names of organisms, microbes, shapes of microbes, carriers of microbial sciences. And it was also about Easter. So we had like Easter eggs and things like that. So it got them really excited to continue to do. And like Dami said in the last one, documentation is very important as well as you walk through the process. Okay, this is me thanking all partners, collaborators, so LSU Department of Biological Sciences, the wonderful volunteers who came along, the Elaine education that helped to make a connection with the school, but ASM for this opportunity to be a young ambassador to Louisiana and for really supporting me through the process this year. All right, thank you. I will be happy to answer any questions or discussions and make a connection after this.
Thank you so much. I think there's comments over here saying it's inspiring and brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing. I would love your insight, Elaine. So as one of our newest young ambassadors who jumped right in the position of being appointed in January, proposal writing in February, and have your activity completed by April 1st, is there any, I mean, obviously time management is important, but is there any advice you would give in terms of anything that can be done to prep or any sort of insight into how you would jump into something so quickly? Because this is a bit of an accelerated timeline compared to what we normally see for some of our other young ambassadors. So I'd love any insight you might have or ideas.
Sure. Okay. So something that helps generally is that I have been doing outreach before now, like a ton individually, but also I have a foundation that is into education. So that's why I have Elaine Education because it helped us make that connection to the school. So I have some experience with doing outreach. So immediately I saw that I kind of tapped into my experience and all to be able to write it, but I would say it was time consuming because again I was in school, I was getting a class and all of those things, so I had to set out time to be able to write and connect with other people. But I feel like someone so again, one will be even if you've not been doing this before and maybe you have done it before and all of those, tap into the community that you have existing already. So like you can see, I had to reach out to, other volunteers to say, hey, this is something that I'm planning to do. Would you be willing to, volunteer to help with this? Even when maybe you don't have an idea of maybe an activity to do, there may be some, I could also check to see, there may be some resources online that you can look at to look at like activities to do around the microbial sciences and all of those. And then you can take some activities from there to do, as well. Now you can reach out to other ASM members and say, hey, I am brainstorming on a certain activity too, right? So do you have some ideas on what we can do? Or is your research in this area? Are you willing to kind of bring your research into this activity as well, and then we can do that. In terms of getting like resources, I tried as much as possible to buy things locally. Walmart was like my go-to to just buy some of those things and then use some. So if you look at it, rather than using like test tubes or beakers from the lab and things like that. I used Ziploc bags, right, which you can get off, a grocery store and not have it so expensive as well. Although I had to do some other printing with Office Depot and they could deliver it, to the house rather than me running to the store, when I had to be in class and things like that, they could deliver it to the house as well. So it's really tapping into, all the resources that you have, whether it's in school, with friends, with other ASM, colleagues as well.
Yeah, no, great insight. I think I always say this, I feel like a lot during the Ambassador Project Fund time is, you can align sort of your interests, your backgrounds into the ambassador projects as well. I don't think we necessarily always have to reinvent the wheel. I think these things can go hand in hand with maybe a passion that someone's already passionate about or a background that someone's already interested in. So thank you so much for your presentation. If there's any additional questions, I encourage all of our other ambassadors on the call to add them to the chat. Thank you so much. I do have Marystella from Kenya as our last presenter. She was having a little bit of a connection issue. So if you're on the call still, Marystella, feel free to share your screen if your connection will allow it. Not sure. Oh, there we go. Oh, good. It's loading. Let me just see. I think you might. There you are. Oh, oh, you're. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I just had to mute you. I think you have two. Let's see. You had two connections, so you were echoing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go. It worked.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the connectivity issues, but I am Marystella Injete from Kenya. Currently, I'm a master student at the University of Eldoret. Doing my research on water quality, that is in environmental microbiology. Just to share a little. Okay, I'll just give a brief story about how I joined ASM because I'm almost ending my term as an ASM ambassador. I've initially heard about ASM in 2019 during my undergraduate student. I joined as a member, but I couldn't even participate. I became that dormant member in the organization, but reactivated my membership in 2022 after I had received a call from the former ambassador, the former young ambassador, about the activities that she was doing. So I voluntarily accepted to join her and also help her in facilitating those activities. During this activity, the activity she was handling at that time was about the workshops at Kenyan institutions. We went to different institutions. We went to University of Eldoret and also Kabianga University, that is also in Kenya. But the challenge I observed during these workshops is what pushed the interest of wanting to take over her, so that I could at least find means to or find solutions to some of the issues I had identified as we reached out. And one of the issues that came out clearly was about the quorum. Most of our institutions here in Kenya have a low number of scientists or students enrolling for scientific courses. So that was a challenge to us. She really tried to come up with this activity, and we also realized that most of the institutions were not even aware about ASM. So it was like an opening forum for us to reach them and enlighten them about ASM. But what really touched my attention was about the quorum. The intakes in our institutions in the scientific field. So I came up amongst my first activity as an ambassador was a general activity, the International Microorganisms Day, where I was in a position to bring together institutions, students from higher learning institutions, and those from secondary schools or high schools. During that activity, we shared a lot. We shared a lot with both students from higher learning institutes and those from secondary schools. And those from secondary schools really showed interest. But the challenge was the performance in our science courses were low. So I had to come back on the drawing board with a few who had passion to support and ASM activities, and we came up with a strategy of outreach to the secondary schools. The first outreach was done in the year 2024, that is in Butere Girls. During this outreach at Butere Girls, we normally we had different activities to showcase. One of the most exciting activity that these students really liked was a Kahoot online game where we could come up with some questions online and ask students to participate. They compete in their various groups about their understanding. It is an online game. It has you automate the answers so that they simply have to press with test at the speed accuracy. The student really enjoyed it. We also showcased some of the laboratory apparatus, because most of our secondary schools, they lack this apparatus. So coming at the university level, they even do not feel much into pursuing these courses because they do not see they did not have that exposure at the level, at ground level. So in order to achieve this, making use of various avenues. For example, I participate in various events locally, scientific events locally. From these events, by participation in these events, I'm able to network and find connections also for collaborators. Like the recent one, we had an outreach at Ishigulu Girls, and due to the previous event by Young Scientist Kenya, they were able to collaborate, and also the SCOCA scientist community of Kenya were also able to participate. They came in fully to support my event as an ASM ambassador. Also, I take advantage of the international days, like the recent I had, it was during the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So it is easier when I use these days, it is easier to secure an opportunity from schools, because schools have tight programs. But when I use these international days, they also see the sense out of it. Also, upon coming up with this project, I went an extra mile of interacting with those on the ground, interacting with the community. And you'll find that during the interaction with the community, it was just a one-on-one talk with some of the elders in the community, with teachers and other staff in the schools. That is where I got the idea that indeed we really need to reach out to these younger ones so that we can nurture them in this field. I don't do this alone, because it is never easy to walk alone. So I have brought in my channels. I networked also with my fellow ambassadors, because from my country they have this notion that it is an American, it is an international organization. So most of the time, whenever you mention it as an ASM event, they expect to see an international face, and this pushed me to work with several ambassadors with whom we have been working close is the ambassador from Central Africa, ambassador from Burkina Faso. Lucky enough, they were in the country, so they were also able to attend the event physically. And among other activities that we have also been hosting during this event are the AGA art competitions, whereby we give students the media and a plate of primary cultures and ask them to make different arts on the AGA using the primary culture that we have provided. Also, we have a poster competition where we give a question. Maybe they write something about a microbe of interest. So the student will come up with different ideas, try to design posters. This is just to prepare them of what they're expecting to meet when they proceed to the next level. Also, in some of the factors that have led to my success in these years, one is that I made myself known. Being an ambassador, most of the time when we receive when we receive an award as an ambassador, it is sent to us personally. So it is upon we as ambassadors to make people know that you exist. Unless you speak up that you are an ambassador, it is very difficult for even your neighbor to realize your responsibility or know what you are capable of doing. So make yourself known, widen your networks. In this field, you cannot make it alone. You need help. We have those who have already been ambassadors. We have those leaders in other field, in other organizations, but scientific related. So make those widen your networks. Also, give your event an international face. It's also very interesting when you invite at least someone from outside to from another country to participate in your event, even if it is virtual. People see the value, the real value of it. That is, this is not just our in country event, but it is an international event. Also, do consultation. Consultation is very key. You will get to understand what people have to say about you, and also embrace teamwork and collaboration. Teamwork is very key because you cannot be able to manage all aspects of that task just single-handedly. Some of my driving forces that have enabled me to walk through all these 3 years. One, I've told myself that I'm an agent of change. Desire to be that agent of the change you want. Do not wait for someone to push you, or do not wait for someone to do it just for you to back up the person. Be an agent. The change you want will always start with you. Learning is a continuous process for all, but distinct to an individual who makes it to be the subject. We know, for example, we are all here as ambassadors, but one might come out different from the others, depending on the effort you put. So the little effort I put, it is what has led to this tremendous productivity. Every opportunity is worth a trial. Just find how best it suits you. You might find that there are various events ongoing, scientific events ongoing in your country. Do not look down upon those events. They are by your participation into those events, you might get a hint on what project to bring across, what they have covered, and what you need to cover at that time. That is why through participation is when I learned that these secondary school students need help because they are our coming scientists. Do not just seek for opportunity, but create it. For those who are just started as ambassadors, create those opportunities. Do not seek what has already been created, because what has already been created has already been done. So come up with something unique that will make you a distinct, and always leave footprints. For example, for me who is living, I have to leave a mark so that when these young ones will follow the advices, the motivations that we have been giving unto them, one day, one time, when even only one lady from this entire team walks through and gives a testimony that it was during that event I became who I am. It is an value added to you as an ambassador. Therefore, this is all I've been doing, and we are still continuing. Also, I do not do it only at a secondary school level, because I also have to those at higher institutions. So most of the time I'm running two events concurrently, the one for for secondary schools and another one for high school for university students. And when the university students, we also have more of similar activities like the Kahoot game, poster writing, essay competitions with them, and inter university competitions when we have different universities. This is just an encouragement unto them to work extremely hard. So that is what has been ongoing that is what is ongoing in Kenya. Should you have any question, you are free to ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was really great. I think what really stood out to me was saying, to be your own agent of change. I don't want anyone to feel, limited. I think the ambassador program and the student chapter programs prove that even, as an early career scientist, you have, the power, the authority, you can implement change. And I think your activities, Marystella, really show, I think, just your motivation behind that. So thank you for sharing. It's really great. I hope everyone saw Marystella and her activity for International Women and Girls in STEM Day was actually just featured probably last month, maybe a little earlier than that, in our leadership newsletter. So it got caught the eyes here at ASM, and we were happy to share that with all of our volunteer leaders in our leadership newsletter. So just a great example of how things can grow and then get shared across the networks. Thank you guys all so much for staying, and thank you for staying a little bit longer to hear all of our great presenters today. In the interest of time, I am going to wrap up and just again hope this was really inspiring for everyone. Everyone's contact information is on the Ambassador website. I'm also encourage you guys to connect on the Ambassador Facebook page as well as the Ambassador ASM Connect channel. So make sure you check out those communication and collaboration platforms that we have all set up. And I hope to see many of you next month in LA. And I'll share the recording of this as well. So thank you guys so much for your time.